Hello and welcome to the final Liverpool Way podcast of 2025 after a win over Wolves at Anfield that saw the Reds move up to 4th place. Ryan Gravenberch opened the scoring and Florian Wirtz quickly added a second to register the first of what we all hope will be many goals in the red shirt. Wolves pulled one back early in the second half and we inexplicably stopped playing and ended up hanging on waiting for the final whistle. We held on without too much drama, but it does feel like we let an opportunity go to boost our pretty awful goal difference, but a win's a win I suppose. I'm Dave Usher, editor at liverpoolway.co.uk, and joining me for this one is Paul Natton. Okay, Paul, classic game of two halves there, I'd say. I don't know what you thought of the first half. I thought it was fine. Second half, no. It was last year's game, wasn't it? Exact same fixture last year, exact same pattern. 2-0 up, 2-1, hanging on.
Yeah, I think I don't want to go over old ground. I think I've said my piece about how I feel about the football that we're playing. Given where we're at, I haven't got a problem with him playing that sort of like controlled football that we were playing in the first half. Until the goals, it was the tempo wasn't great, but that's fine. We weren't giving up chances. We had the ball up at their end nearly throughout the entire half. And then we got those 2 goals in quick succession. Great. If that's his plan and that's working, I think given where we've been at, that's absolutely fine, and that's what he's got to do. So I didn't have a problem with that. But so it wasn't wildly thrilling or entertaining football. There was moments in it which I enjoyed about the first half. I thought Wirtz looked really good. Frimpong had some really good moments as well. Hugo had a couple of moments in that first half before the goals, and then both the goals I thought were in their own way were really good to see. They're both two good goals really, and that particularly the second one, felt really good for Wirtz to get off the mark finally. But then the second half, it's what we've seen recently, isn't it? What we saw against Spurs. We know psychologically things aren't right with these lads. And after Wolves scored, Wolves almost dominated possession. Never mind anything else. It wasn't great to see. The crowd were edgy at that point, and we've seen this story before, haven't we? It just seems to be what we are at the moment, and we've just got to find ways to come through it. I think like I said, it's hard work watching us right now, but a win's a win. And given the way things have been, you absolutely take that. And also, league table is looking. I wouldn't quite go as far as to say respectable, far less embarrassing now than it was looking for a while. So I haven't really got a problem with it. Big takeaways for me in terms of the day were Wirtz really. I guess we can talk about him a bit more shortly. Wirtz, in terms of how I just think we've got to now continue to give him the ball as much as possible. Still don't think we're quite doing that enough, but we've seen more of that recently, and as a result he's getting the goals and the assists starting to come. But then the other one was just the start of the game. What an emotional day it was with Diogo's family there and the 2 boys coming out with Virgil beforehand. I think in some ways that made a bigger impression on me than the match or anything else. It was. I don't know. We've had some very emotional times at Anfield, and not least this season in the aftermath of Diogo's death. But it really, I found it quite tough really watching those 2 boys come out there. I think. As you know, I lost our Rachel, my sister, 5 years ago, and her son, unexpectedly, that was completely unexpected, death like Diogo's was, and her son was only 5 at the time, and just seeing those boys really just threw me back to that really, and just looking at how young and innocent they are, and how they're going to have to, grow up without their dad. That's a kind of a real. It's also quite visceral. Yesterday, it really hit me quite hard again. How tough it is, and I think just reflecting, I said in one of our chats before, I think it's, as fans, we're so obsessed with the game, and it's all consuming, and it kind of dominates our lives to a greater or lesser extent. We often lose sight of the essential humanity of the players, that they are in a very fundamental sense, human beings, people. And I just think it just reminded me of that yesterday. And I think it's just nothing new that I'm saying now. People have said this all season, but there's absolutely no way of knowing what impact Diogo's death and the subsequent grief has had on these lads. You know, for them to go out there yesterday, seeing, you know, I'm not, apologies if I'm mispronouncing her name. Portuguese pronunciation is not the easiest. Ruta, I think her name is. I don't know. I might have got that wrong. Shavasta or Harry speaks Portuguese. Seeing her beforehand, that I've all spoken to her. Most of them have all had a little chat with the boys before the game. All of them, to a greater or lesser degree, would have started that match with Diogo in their minds. And it's just, there's no real way of quantifying the impact that's had on these lads and on the season as a whole. I don't think for 1 second it's been the only issue, but, you know, coming away from Anfield yesterday, that was in my mind as much as the paucity of the second half, really. I just think it's just really fucking grim, and it just struck me again yesterday about how hard it is. You know, seeing her as well, particularly after seeing the pictures of her, and she's posted some amazing photos on Twitter and various social media. How young she looks. I mean, I know you and me are all asses now, you know, and I'm 55 in March, but she's young enough to be my daughter. That's mad to just, she's in her late 20s, I think she's 28, something like 27, 28, and she just looked really young to me. And it really struck me quite hard that she's growing up with those children on her own. I mean, I know there's a lot of people deal with very difficult circumstances, and hers are, to a certain degree, mitigated by the financial security that she has and the networks around us of support, but it doesn't really take away the fact that, you know, a life that she and her family had planned has been ripped away. So yeah, that struck me yesterday, and, you know, I'm sorry to you and to everybody else if that sounds a little bit maudlin, but I really did want to reflect on it. I know it's a subject we've talked about a number of times, but I think yesterday was a day when, you know, it was thrust upon us again, rightly so, with those two clubs coming together. So it was quite emotional, I thought.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think the bit that jumped out at me was, like John pointed it out. He said, like, you know, the last time those kids were on the pitch was when we'd won the league, and the players must be thinking that, you know, like, that's got to be in their heads, because their own kids were out there as well, and you know, and it's not just that. Obviously they knew Diogo, but they knew the family as well, because they all like, you know, they mix in the same circles and stuff, and round at each other's houses, club get-togethers, all of that stuff. So they actually know the kids.
Yeah.
So it's got to be really hard for those, you know, specifically, you know, Alisson, Virgil, Robbo, the people who've been around them for several years. Yeah. It must be, like, really tough for them, but I didn't know what to make of it initially. You know, I thought, oh, is this a good idea? You know, but ultimately it just comes down to, is that what they want to do? You know, is that what, like, I just say Ruta, I think that's how it's pronounced, I'm not sure, but if that's what they want to do, and if that gives them some kind of, like, comfort or whatever, that's the only thing that matters. It's like, you know, let them make the decision, and it seemed like they really wanted to do that, and, you know, they've got something out of it, so that's, you know, that's really good, and hopefully, like, they've had a nice day. The kids did seem to be having a good time, didn't they? You know, like,
they did,
smiles on their faces, and so, you know,
just
I'm
very
sure
innocent, aren't they?
Yeah. But I mean, it must be, like, nice for them running out in front of a big crowd and seeing, like, people who they know, like Virgil and Alisson and that. You know, they probably haven't seen them for a while, have they? So just,
and those lads would have gone out their way to make it special for them and to be positive.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I don't know if that impacted the atmosphere, or if it was just flat because it's after Christmas. It was a 3:00 Saturday game, and, you know, we're shit, and just all of that. I don't know, but I think that was the flattest atmosphere of the season.
I think you're probably right.
I just thought, like, there was no juice at all.
Yeah.
Even, like, I think the Jota song was probably the loudest point to or not necessarily loudest, but that was, like, the most into it. The whole crowd wasn't the whole day. I didn't think even the goals weren't anything, like, you know, one was going mad or anything.
Especially the first one. I thought the first one, it was quite muted, really. The second one more so.
because of the identity of the goal scorer, I think.
Yeah, on that first one, just around me, it was more relief. I think people had been there were grumbles is too strong a word, but there were tensions and nervousness, I think, around and the whole area around me in the Kop, where people were just kind of like finding it frustrating, and it's on the back of, because it's game after game, isn't it? You know what I mean? I think the experience at Anfield, I think, is different to watching on the telly. You're really immersed in it, and you feel part of it. You do feel part of the whole thing. You feel like you can have an impact. But the flip side of that is you also feel like a little bit in Groundhog Day. You know, you see things that aren't necessarily on the telly all the time, or your focus might go to particular things that the cameras don't focus on. And, you know, that we were doing the whole sort of controlled from the back thing, and I think a lot of people find that difficult. The slow pace, definitely people found that difficult. So I think when that first goal went in, and it was a really good goal, I thought. You know, I thought Frimpong absolutely fantastic. I thought he gave a really good account of himself yesterday, and it was a fantastic finish by Grav.
Yeah.
But
it's only when you watch it afterwards you realise how good a finish it was.
Yeah, really good. But it was, around me it was very much kind of like sigh of relief, clenched fists, nice one, rather than like a big explosion. I think, as you say, when Wirtz scored, I think there was much more. It was more celebratory because, and also it was the centre that gave us a 2-goal cushion. You know what I mean? I think that people were saying that. You know, the people saying with the second one, and that's, you know, that gives us a cushion now, which is mad, really. I know. You know, against Wolves, but that, I mean, it's, you know, people weren't being cynical or taking the piss. That's genuinely how people felt. Yeah. So yeah, it was quite muted. And I even on the, you know, talking about the Jota song, even that, like, you know, there's two bits. I don't know whether you get a sense of it from where you are in the main stand, but there's two areas of the Kop which really start singing. There's kind of like 202. And then there's like sort of 20, sort of, was it 8 and 9, and then 30, 8, 9, further along over towards the King Kenny. So there's to the back, nearer to the main stand, and there's over towards the King Kenny. And they didn't even really, it wasn't even really coordinated. Sometimes one will start, and it's out of sync slightly, and then they end up syncing together. It wasn't even coordinated like that. It was all just a little bit like, it was, I think probably, you know, it was all the things you said about the atmosphere today. It wasn't the best, but I mean, I think ultimately, people were just relieved with the win at the end of the day.
So I feel a bit differently about the first half. I was relatively okay with it because I did see some things that moving forward, I think, okay, that's what we need to be seeing. I don't think we've seen enough of it, but at least there was signs there. So specifically, I'm talking about the fullbacks. So how long have we been complaining about the way the fullbacks have been used this season?
Yeah.
And it's, you sign like 2 flying fullbacks, and okay, Frimpong's been missing, but Conor Bradley can do that. It's not like Conor Bradley's just a defensive fullback. So whatever you're asking Frimpong to do, Conor Bradley can do that as well. So I don't see that as an excuse for how we've been setting up. But it's only recently, the last few weeks, where we've changed the setup, changed the build up, and it's noticeable. Like the change has been made where you've got Jones as a 2 now with Gravenberch, and they're dropping into the defence when we've got the ball for the build up, and the fullbacks are both pushing right up the pitch. So that wasn't happening before. Kirkheads was sitting in as part of the build up, and it's just, I don't want to go over all ground, but doesn't suit him. You're cutting his balls off, not letting him do the things he's good at, asking him to do things he's not good at. It's changed. And when you're playing against a team like Wolves, they were just getting everybody back behind the ball, no ambition at all in the first half. We come across that a fair few times each season. It's not an unusual thing to come up against, and often we struggle. So in terms of like the slow tempo, I sort of agree to a point, but when you're playing a team who's only doing that, it's hard to have a high tempo game, because really you want like a basketball type game for high tempo, and when teams are just sitting in and doing that, you do get sucked into that, just passing it about, probing, looking for openings, because you don't get many opportunities to do any counter-attacking or any fast-paced stuff. So I do think that's part of it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think maybe that's definitely fair. And I'm not completely down on the first half, and as I said, I think a lot of it is is affected by the context, and that we kind of like, there's not a lot of joy going to Anfield at the moment. So I think that inevitably affects how you see the game. I think what I specifically wanted to see more was like moving it wide. You are right about the fullbacks. They were pushed on.
That's what I was going to get to.
I wanted them to just move it faster. I just thought we were taking maybe one touch too many and not fizzing the passes. And I think, but maybe that's a confidence issue, which is understandable given where we're coming from. And you're right, it is. It's definitely tactically a step forward in the right direction. It's definitely the way to go, and that can only be a positive.
But we didn't do it enough with Frimpong for me. That was the issue I had. Was a lot of it was coming down the left, and there was loads of nice footy down the left, little link-ups with Kerkez and Wirtz and Jones. That side of the pitch was working well. But while all that's going on, I'm looking over the far side of the pitch, and Frimpong is in acres of space all the time. And it's like, if we could have just got the ball over to him more quickly. He's 1v1, and that's what he wants to do. He wants to go on the outside,
and he's good at it,
and get crosses in. And we weren't getting him the ball. By the time the ball got to him, he doubled up, and he was having to come backwards. So that was frustrating me a little bit, but not massively so, because I just looked at it and thought, at least the intent's there for us to play that way now. That's something that, with time, like, you know, and it should come. We should get better at that. Finding him in space and letting him do his thing. And I was saying it to John, I was like, Frimpong's the key here. He's like the spare man all the time. If we can get him the ball early, just let him do his thing. And then, of course, the first goal comes from him getting the ball and running at someone and cutting it back. So that's like, you know, we always joke about it, like, teams who sit behind the ball like that, there's only one way to beat them, get round the back.
It's true.
But we don't do it. Yeah. And that's what's been so like frustrating, is that we just, there's no intent to do that. Well, I did see that there was intent to do that yesterday. We didn't do it often enough, but I don't necessarily think it was because of intent. We just didn't quite work the situations as quickly as we needed to.
Well, do you know,
but at least you know, you can see the way the team's set up. If teams want to play like that against us, I think we can break them down now by playing that way.
Yeah, just on why we're not doing it more, I think I touched on it. I may have mentioned it just at the start. This really struck me yesterday. I felt it right from the moment we signed him, and I've said it a few times throughout the season to this point. Everything has to go through Wirtz, I think, if we're going to get the most out of him. And we're still not quite letting him dominate our attacking play in the way that I think we need to. I think we're getting better, and I think one of the things that I really appreciated about the first half, excuse me, was that his movement is really good. He's finding pockets of space, and when you give him the ball, he makes things happen. But we're still not doing it enough. I think it almost needs to be. He needs to be the conductor of the orchestra.
Do you think he needs to be in Macca's position?
Possibly. But in some senses, I think it's less positional, although I would like more central. It's less positional and more about the rest of the team not being sufficiently switched on to giving him the ball. And I think some of the responsibility for that comes from him. I would like to, and I do say that knowing that he's still a very young lad. He's only 22, he's at a new club. But a player of his quality, I would like to see him being more demanding of his teammates. I'd like to see him like saying, give me the ball. So he shows, but I'd like to see him like gesture and like demand it. I'd like to see that from him.
Bollock and then I think he doesn't get it.
Yeah, and I think if you start to see that, the players will become more switched on to giving him the ball every time he shows, because they already know they can trust him with it. That it's just not in their mind to give it to him. Like, you know, it almost needs to be like a bit metronomic. I think it's just got to be like he is the fulcrum, and the ball goes into him and it goes out, and it comes in and it goes out, and he's the one who's probing and just pinging passes through him until you work a space and he finds the free man through to score. And I think there was moments in the first half, even before the goals yesterday, where we saw that. I think certainly we saw it for his goal and his ability to work space and through his movement and to pop up somewhere where he wasn't expected to be. But that, for me, I think the point you were making, which I agree with, I think that would come more effectively if we were just all in on Wirtz being the conductor. And I think we do seem to be slightly moving in that direction. I'd just like to see us accelerate that a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we did see signs of it in the first half, and it is tough when teams do what Wolves do. Like, you know, every team struggles against that to some degree, and the key to it is if you score early, and that takes a bit of the pressure off. And then what you really want to do, you want to get to 2-0, because that means they have to change. Definitely. So at half time, I was like more than happy with what had gone on, because I seen enough. It wasn't brilliant by any means, and it was a bit slow at times, but I seen enough.
Yeah.
Especially like the way we were using the fullbacks, we were getting Wirtz on the ball, and we'd got the 2-0 lead. So at half time, I'm like, this is good now, because this is exactly where you want to be. It's where Slot has repeatedly said he wants to be. He wants to be like the 3-0 team. And he said all season, too often we've been chasing the game, and that's difficult, and we haven't got control of it. What you want to do is get in front, and then you can control it. But every time we've been 2-0 up this year, well, not every time, because there was the game in Frankfurt, maybe another one somewhere along the line, I don't know. But basically, we go 2-0 up, and then it just goes to shit. So we were brilliant against Everton in the first half. We get 2-0 up against Everton and then just stop playing. Newcastle away, we're 2-0 up against 10 men, ends up 2-2. We get the late goal and win it. I think we blew a 2-0 against Atletico as well, and then won it. So we get to 2-0 at Tottenham last week. We get to 2-0, and then that should be the platform for us to go and win 4-0, and it never is. And that's the thing that's like really just bothering me about yesterday. Everything that Slot has been saying, this has not been good because of this and because of this, and we've had to do this. And he's not wrong. I'm not disputing any of the things that he said. As usual, most of what he says, I'm like, yeah, that absolutely makes perfect sense. But then, whenever you're in that position that he wants to be in, it ends up like that. And that's
and
okay when
it's
Atletico Madrid.
Again?
But it's like, so you blow a 2-0 lead against Atletico Madrid, it's like, okay, it can happen. And again, I think it was a set piece in that game. At least one, maybe two. But definitely conceded the set piece in that game as well. So that's an issue. But still, okay, so we conceded the set piece really early in the second half. That just should be the... Wolves had come out then, by the way, because right from the start of the second half, you could see Wolves were different. They were pushed higher up the pitch. They weren't just sitting in back in their own half with everyone behind the ball. They'd come out to have a bit of a go to try to get back in the game. Well, is that not the whole point in what you want? Is that not where you want to be? Where a team that's having to sit in like that, make it difficult for you. Then you draw them out, and then that's when your extra quality should put them to the sword.
Do you know what, Dave?
There's a reason why Wolves come to Anfield and played the way they did. It's because if they come to Anfield and go toe-to-toe, they would expect to get battered.
Yeah.
So teams sit in like that. And then you get them in that position where they have to come out. And we sit back and let them dominate the ball, and we just spend 45 minutes just playing out time, holding on to a 2-1. That's what I don't get.
Well, do you know the thing? I mean, I don't disagree with anything you've just said, but in some senses, like, if dealing with this in terms of where we are now as a club and what we've been through this season, I'm less frustrated by the sort of what I perceive as being the psychological reaction to conceding a goal, because to me it's clearly psychological. They panic.
Yeah, but it's the time, though, Paul. If it's 10 minutes to go, I totally get that.
No, I agree, and I'm not defending them on that, Dave. But I just think they're in a place where mentally they're not out of that place yet, and I need them to be out of it. It's not good enough that they're there, but they are there, and I know why they're there, because we've been through this absolute shit show, which we've bottomed out of, and we seem to be coming out of, and it does need to change, and it is a concern. But for me, but it's not a simple fix. That will take time. What I think is a simpler fix is fucking defend set pieces more effectively. That big Groch who put the header in, okay, fair enough, he's a big lad. I think we've got big lads who can defend the header up against him there, but okay, the big lad up front,
he beats Canate,
and he outmuscled Canate a few times in the game before that. So I think Canate, and I believe Canate's been ill all week and hasn't trained all week, but he played because we're so short of players. So even though Konate's not my favourite at the moment, I'm willing to give him a bit of a pass in that context. But what pisses me off is that then Ali pulls off a really good save, and then there's no one near for the second ball, and then it's just an easy finish. And for me, if we're switched on properly for set pieces and we've got bodies in there, that is the bigger issue. That's definitely coachable. The psychological stuff will take time because they are dealing with a lot. You know what I mean? It's not acceptable that we're just like panicking in the way we are. And as you say, with so long to go, I mean, that just is mad to see. But I do understand how we got here. And coming out of it, I think will take time. The set piece thing is that 12 now? Is that 12 set piece goals? Have I got that wrong, or is that? It just seems too many to me. But I'm sure I read that.
I think it's 11 and we've scored 2, or it's 12 and we've scored 3. I know
I think it was 11 before yesterday, and that was the 12th. But either way, it could be that
there's a difference of 9. Is what I read.
Yeah, it's so bad, and I just think that's the. What are we doing about that? That really is. They should not be scoring like that. Even given what I've said about that big lad up front, what I've said about Konate, if you've got other players switched on, in their positions, in their zones, and sharp and alive to what's happening in the box, at the very least there's another body in there. It should not be dropping to that lad's feet and he's just got an easy tap in there, I don't think. That was the bigger frustration for me. I'm not taking anything away from the point you made. I mean, that was, everything you say, I agree with. It wasn't great to see at all. But I understand how we've got to that position. What's frustrating me more is about this. We seem to be sort of finding some solutions to the other issues that we've had, but the set piece thing still seems to be there. And that it's so strange that we've gone from being so good on set pieces to so bad in such a short space of time, season on season. And that to me is because it's a fundamental of the game, particularly when you look at what's happening across the league. Where and I know all the teams are raising the game, but we're an elite club. We should be able to respond as well. And that for me is a pretty big concern. Really, we need to see some impact there.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the set pieces, the overall body of work is the problem here, rather than like specifically yesterday, because at any point in any game against any team, you can concede from a corner. But the point is, it's not a one-off. You can't dismiss that and go, well, this happens. You could do if our record wasn't what our record is on set pieces this season. If our record was like we've scored 9 and we've conceded 8 and you concede that goal yesterday, I think you can just go, one of those things. But no, it's a massive problem, and a difference of 9 goals. I mean, that probably, I don't think it's oversimplifying things to say that probably puts you like maybe second, and a few points off top. That is the difference. Like if you reverse that, if you flip it so we're +9, not -9 on set pieces, where does that put us in the table? Now, that's not to say that's our only issue, and if we sort corners out, everything's good. That's not what I'm saying. But that is a big difference. I mean,
it is, isn't it? Yeah.
It's where Arsenal are where they are 100% because of that.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't be, because Arsenal should be much better than they are. The players that they've got, they should be well clear at the top. They should be playing really good football, scoring plenty of goals. The manager's holding them back because they have got like so much talent in the squad, but they rely on set pieces. But they're really good at it, and that's got them where they are. I mean, I haven't seen yesterday's games, but I believe they scored again from a corner. They've just got over the line, 2-1, not impressive again, but set pieces is what's doing it for them. Now, I'm actually starting to think now that's not sustainable, and because last year it was like this, and then the second half of the season, teams kind of got a bit wise to it, and it dried up for them, didn't it?
Especially City is starting to move through the gears as well.
That's what I was about to say. I think what City are doing is more sustainable than what Arsenal's doing right now.
Yeah.
But I do think Arsenal should be well clear with the squad they've got. But I do think they're being held back by like just negative tactics. And I see the same thing with us, but the difference is, I think we hit rock bottom, and we were in a situation where it was like, okay, we're going to have to do this just to scrape some wins and just get back on the right path. So I think it's more understandable, but I don't think the second half yesterday was understandable. I get what you're saying about like the scar tissue and stuff with players, and I thought Carragher's piece last week after Spurs was really eye opening.
What did he say, Dave? I haven't read
it. He put on, like, I think it was the last 9 minutes of the game or something. He played all of it, and while it was going on, he was just pointing out everything that was going wrong, and it was all to do with it was decision making from the players and them being scared. So the point he's making, like, most of all, is like at first it's 11v10. This is before the second sending off. And he's like, you've got the extra man. What you do against the extra man, you make the pitch wide, you pass the ball, and you utilise the space because they can't cover the whole pitch because they're a man short. And he's like, but look what Liverpool are doing. They're not doing that. Nobody's showing for the ball. We were playing it long. We had to throw in. And he said, like, any other time, Curtis Jones is demanding the ball to his feet. Curtis Jones is pointing down the touchline, going, throw it long. And all stuff like that kept going on. Kanate should have been dropping deep to get the ball to his feet, but he pushed up and the ball goes long. So it was all stuff like that. But the most telling part for me was, you know, the counter-attack we had, which was pathetic. It ended up with Curtis trying to dribble and losing the ball.
Yeah.
So on that counter-attack, when we lost the ball there, everyone retreated back into their own half, while Slot's on the touchline absolutely screaming at them and pointing, telling them to go and press high, because this is, at that point, it's 11v9. And he's saying, like, the one thing you do not want to do in that situation is just let Tottenham hit long balls and play for second balls. You push up on them, don't let them play, don't let them get into positions where they can hit it long. We just sat back and waited for them to hit it long. And then we were giving free kicks away and inviting more pressure. And everyone was going deep into the box. So when we headed it out, Tottenham were just waiting and picking up the second ball. And he's pointing out all this, and he's like, Liverpool have got 2 extra men on the pitch. This is like the things that you absolutely do not do when you're down, when you've got a 2-man advantage, is what we were doing. But it wasn't because of Arne Slot. It's not like he's telling them to do that. So the Tottenham game, that is completely on, like, the scar tissue of the players and what's happened to them before, where they've given leads away and confidence is low because of the run we've been on and all that. So that's down to the players. At the time, I didn't necessarily think that that's what it was. I thought, you know, Slot's part of it as well. But having seen, like, the way Carragher's, like, pointed it out, I'm like, no, I give him a pass for that. I don't give him a pass for the way we were happy to just keep it 2-0 instead of going and just burying them. That's down to, like, tactics and, you know, just like a lack of just ambition. You know, it was like, well, it's 2-0, it's fine, we'll just keep this. When it's like, no, we've got an extra man, Tottenham are on the ropes, they're shit anyway, they're terrible at home, let's go and bury them. So I've got a problem with that, but what happened in stoppage time was not down to Slot at all, because he's trying to get them to do the opposite to what they were doing. But when you get 2-0 up against Wolves and then you can see the goal on 50 minutes, something like that, was it? Like,
something, it was early,
5 minutes in. So that shouldn't really matter. That shouldn't change the game at all. It should just piss you off and go, okay, right. So it basically, it should be, okay, so you want a game of football now, do you? Okay, well, we'll fucking give you the game of football, because Wolves had come out to have a go in the second half. They weren't just sitting in. They had a go. And that's where it should be easy for us to just go and take them apart. And instead, Wolves get the ball, and you're watching us, and everyone just retreats into the shape and sits back and lets Wolves have the ball. Now, I'm not saying, like, they dominated the whole half and they had all the possession. They didn't, you know, but we didn't dominate, did we? You know, we didn't pen them. At what point did we have them penned back in the second half? No point whatsoever. It was just a relatively even half of football. But they were not defensive because they had to come out and have a go, and they did, and we couldn't put them to the sword. That was the worst part about yesterday for me, because we'd done everything that you would want to do in the first half. That's how games like that, that's how you draw it up on the tactics board. It's like, move them around, keep the ball side to side, make them run, pick out the openings when you've got them, get yourself a lead, force them to come out, and then wipe the floor with them. And we did everything right up to the point of wiping the floor with them. Instead, we just retreated. We played that second half like we were playing Man City, which is acceptable if you're playing Man City. You know, you're like, okay, they're going to push us back now and it's going to be tough and we're going to have to defend. Wolves have got 2 points this season. They may well end up being, like, statistically the worst top flight team of all time. It's it's conceivable that that's how it's going to be. They are a terrible team. I heard a Wolves fan on the radio, like, after the game, and I thought he was going to come on and say, oh, you know, we've given a really good go there, I'm pleased with the team. He didn't. He came on and he was complaining about their performance. He was like, we should have done better there. That wasn't, you know, that wasn't good. We're terrible. And I'm like, in no way has he got it in his head, well, you know, we were playing like the defending champions and a really good team. He was looking at that going, no, we should have done more there.
That ship sailed, hasn't it?
Yeah, the lack of respect, that. And I'm not criticising that Wolves fan, by the way, but like just the lack of respect he had for where they were playing and who they were playing and where they are. Like, they've got 2 points, they haven't won a game all season, and he's like, no, that wasn't good enough, we should be doing better there. So, you know, it's not even like Wolves played particularly well. So, I find the second half, like the mentality, I find it baffling. If Wolves had got their goal on 75, 80 minutes, I would completely understand how the game could have gone the way it did. But for them to score as early as they did, and for us to immediately be on the back foot because of that, I can't fathom how that's how we approached that second half. But on the positive side, we had done everything you would want to do up to that point. All of that was, you'd be ticking off boxes going, yep. And then the final thing is where you turn the 2-0 into the 4-0 and everyone goes home happy. Instead of going home going, fucking hell, we've ended up hanging on. You've got like loads of people in the crowd desperately whistling at the end, wanting the ref to blow for time. And I was just sat there just like shaking my head going, fucking hell. We're desperate for the referee to blow the whistle and we're playing Wolves.
What did you, changing the subject slightly, what did you make of the substitutions and in general the use of the squad? I mean, I thought I was pleasantly surprised Fede got a start. I mean, mad that it's his first ever Premier League start for Liverpool.
At Anfield. One away game.
Yeah, at Anfield.
Yeah.
I thought we might have seen Rio at some stage.
No, only when we're getting beat.
And
he's never been on unless we've been getting beat.
And I know, it's mad, isn't it? And it also occurred to me yesterday.
Good job we never signed anyone to block his pathway, though, Paul.
Yeah, it occurred to me yesterday just how thin the squad's starting to look. You know, we've got low key, we've got a fucking big problem with fitness. Yeah. We've got a big problem with fitness, haven't we? And I'm not just talking about keeping players fit. I'm talking about energy as well. I mean, Ekatike, he gets to 75 minutes.
Yeah.
And he's fucking blowing chunks every week.
You get an extra 5 out of Wirtz before you start blowing the tugs.
Yeah. And I just think, I mean, clearly the step up from the Bundesliga and the intensity of English football, everyone talks about it, and Diaz has talked about the step down going the other way. So clearly it's a thing, but also we have got people whose job it is to prepare these players to play. And what's concerning me is, as the squad gets thinner and thinner and thinner, and this becomes more attritional for them, I'm a little bit concerned about the capacity of these lads to be able to play week in, week out, to start every game.
Well, they become vulnerable, don't they? If they're having, like Ekatike, for example, we need to be wrapping him in cotton wool because we cannot afford to lose him.
Yeah.
But you see him, like, he's getting cramp and having to be brought off every game. At
what point
does cramp become a hamstring injury?
You know, I mean, talking about Konate, I mean, as I said, he's annoyed me a lot this season, and Brownie said in the chat, cheeky bastard, you know,
I was going to ask you, what did you make of that?
Cheering the crowd up again. I mean, honestly, Odd, he just, you know, he's been fucking fluttering his eyelids at Madrid all season. Then Madrid have jibbed him off, and he's doing all that like he pisses me off. But anyway, I think that's a side issue in some ways. But what I am mindful of is the fact that he's not had a great fitness record this whole time with us. It's good that he's been ill all week and that he made himself available and played, and that's why I say I give him a little bit of a pass for getting out muscled a couple of times by their number 14. But we're looking thin there as well. And everywhere you look, I'm thinking, and now the club are putting out the noises about we're probably not going to do any business. You know, they've moved away from Semenyo. They're talking about maybe not looking at a centre half in this window. And you've consistently said since we bottomed out and started to turn it around, you're convinced we'll get top 5. I'm less convinced, although I do have to accept that, you know, the way the league is this season, there's so many very inconsistent teams. You know, we're in 4th, and you know, you'd think top 5 is definitely achievable. I think we're only maybe one significant injury from the arse falling out of us again, and you get that sort of, you know, that knock on sort of the thigh bones connected to the hip bone thing that we had in the season, where we were moving players out of position to put out an 11, and particularly when you've got a manager like Slot who really doesn't trust fringe players or young players. The fitness thing is starting to really play on my mind now, and I just, particularly in the context of these noises that we're not going to do business. I thought there were lots of noises saying that we are going to do business, and now it seems to be going the other way. Now you never know whether this is just game playing to make sure that we do the deals that we want to do, but particularly centre half, I'd be alarmed if we don't sign a centre half. I think that's a worry.
Yeah, we have to see how it plays out. We don't know, do we? But if we do not sign a centre back, to me, it just feels like you're just conceding the season. You're just giving up. Because you can't do it. And also, I don't want to get bogged down on the Semenyo thing. I mean, we'll see how that plays out. But we clearly do need another attacker as well.
Of that type as well,
see,
I think.
I've said all along, there's no way we won't finish in the Champions League spots. Now, in fairness, I'm saying that because I'm not legislating for what might happen with injuries. You know, you could end up with like massive injury crisis, and in which case that does change things, and we probably wouldn't. I do think you've got a point in terms of we're one injury away. So like either Ekitike or Virgil, for example, if we were to lose either of them, even Kanate, because we haven't got anyone else to bring in, if we were to lose any of those,
big problem.
We would be in big trouble. Now, it's a little bit. The Ekitike thing is a bit unfortunate because you can't legislate for what's happened to Isak, and Jayden Danns has been out for months. So if you've got both of those available and Ekitike gets injured, you're fine, you've got players you can bring in. That's not down to planning, because we couldn't have bought another number 9.
No.
But what you can say, and something that some of us were consistently saying, is if you still had Luis Diaz, well, you've got someone who can play there, and he can also play in other positions. Yeah. Now, you make the decision to sell Diaz, which is fine. I understand all of the reasons why that happens, the financial reasons, why they made that decision. So as much as I liked him and wanted him to stay, I never had a problem with them letting him go for the reasons that they had for letting him go. I did have a problem that they didn't replace him. And you look at where we are now. If we'd assigned a Diaz replacement who can play right across the front three, well, he'd be in the team because Gakpo's been shite, Salah's not here, and Isak's out, so you need somebody who you can rotate in with Ekitike. So what will probably happen is Ekitike does his 75 minutes and then he's goosed, and then Chiesa comes on, which I'm okay with that. That's all right. But if Ekitike gets injured, then what?
I mean, I just offer a caveat to what you said there, in that I all the things you've said about the summer transfer window, I think they're all valid points that you've made, and including the one way that you've made, you didn't make it there, but you've made it a number of times about you wouldn't have done Isak, you'd have done a more versatile player. I think the point I've made in response to that is that I think sometimes the market doesn't line up the way you want. And sometimes there's deals that you maybe had planned for a year down the line, like maybe Ekitike, but that was brought forward because of the situation that Newcastle were in, where they were looking for another forward. But we also wanted Isak, and then you go for 2, but that means you can't do the other deal that you want to do. Maybe we had the Semenyo deal was maybe one that we were lining up, and then it seems like they couldn't get all of it done in the summer. What I am frustrated about now, so up to this point, it's clearly not perfect in the summer, But I can see, excuse me, a rationale as to why we got into that situation.
Because you
all
thought
of this,
you were waiting for Semenyo?
Yeah, and all of those decisions on their own, letting Diaz go, the signing the 2 number 9s, all of those things in isolation make sense. I can understand why the logic of each one of those. And I understand as well that the club taking a holistic view to say, yeah, this doesn't leave us in a great position, but we'll make do and mend for half a season because we want to stick to our medium and long-term targets, and they've got a track record for doing that. It's been successful for us over that period of time, so why would they not continue to do that? What I don't then like, though, is that there isn't a response in this window. Now, as you've rightly said, we don't know for a fact about what's going to happen with Semenyo, but that to me seemed like an absolute no-brainer that we need to make sure this... And it's not even like a short-term signing. It's a player we've clearly had interest in. We've clearly been talking to him and his agent over a medium term, and it's one that we've been looking at hard. But if we're now moving away from it, especially in the context of where the season is, that doesn't make sense to me. Mm-hmm. The other one is the noises around Gay seem to be getting muddled as well. And again, in some ways, that's very risky.
He's not going to move. He'd be stupid to move now. If I was him, I would absolutely wait until the summer, and then you've got your pick of what you want to do.
Yeah.
I wouldn't move in January if I was him.
No, but in some senses, I mean, I agreed. And certainly his agent wouldn't be doing his job if he wasn't making that point to him. But what are we doing about a centre-half?
No, that's a separate issue, and I'm with you. Yeah.
That's very, very concerning. If the Gay one is now been closed down, that's really concerning to me. So the whole fitness issue is now sort of dovetailing with the imbalanced squad issues. And just as, we are making things a little bit more respectable looking, even if we still got big concerns around lots of things about the psychology of the team, the way we're playing, all those things. Given what we've been through, the table is looking more respectable now. Results are looking more respectable now. That's good. That's unequivocally good. But what you don't want is to get derailed again by an issue that it looked like we were planning for.
Yeah.
And now we're not.
That's the thing that, you see, as pissed off as I was that we didn't sign a Diaz replacement, it was a couple of months into the season and the story came out about Semenyo's release clause. And as soon as I heard that, because I was told at the back end of last season, the most likely deal that we were going to do was Semenyo. There was people well connected to the club were convinced that we were signing him. Yeah. And they were surprised that we didn't. Then that story comes out about the release clause. And it all makes sense. You're like, okay, so Bournemouth didn't want to sell in the summer because they'd lost a lot of players. And they didn't want to lose him at that point. They got him tied down to a new deal with an escape clause. So at least it buys them time to do something where they can get a replacement in themselves in January. So it all makes sense. And I've got no problem then with us waiting, because you would have liked the deal to have been done in the summer, but if the player you want isn't going to be available until January, that's okay. I'm fine with waiting to then do that. If that's what your plan is, sell Diaz, wait a few months and then get his replacement in January. I'm good with that. It's not a perfect situation, but it's an understandable one, and I've got no problem with us acting that way. I would have a massive problem if the stories that come out last week, we've walked away from Semenyo, we're not pursuing it. That is just baffling, unless you've got somebody else lined up, which time will tell. But as of now, the rumours are, no, Liverpool's going to have a quiet window. If we do have a quiet window, that's not acceptable. And it tells me that the hierarchy have given up on the season, and possibly given up on Slot, because why would you not be doing, if you still believe in him and you're desperate to make it work, why would you not be doing everything you can to help him out of this mess by getting players that he needs? Why would you just leave him hanging and say, no, we're gonna sit tight?
Do you know, on that point, I think strategically, if they've given up, in the words you use, given up on the season, maybe given up on Slot, I mean, all of that's relative, obviously. And I kind of strategically, okay, I can see that point of view, that they might have taken that position now and thought, okay, we need to move on from Slot. We're not going to win the league. We need to be looking ahead and making sure that we don't make short-term decisions to chase this campaign.
They probably think we'll get Champions League no matter what, though, Paul.
So that's yeah, you know where I'm going. But that to me that's the roll of the dice, because the unpredictability of this league this season, the clear psychological scars that this squad is now carrying game on game, and the fact that the manager is clearly diminished. Whatever anyone thinks about Slot and the season that he's had and various and the different fans' attitudes to him, you can't go through losing 9 out of 12 games period without in some way being diminished in terms of your stature.
Yeah.
So all
Stock
of those
price
things
has fallen massively.
Absolutely. So all of those things mean that it's a real risk if you're not looking to ensure you have Champions League football, because we know one of the things Jules and I had a brief conversation in the pub yesterday about the transfer business in the summer. We weren't talking for long, and said to me, one of the reasons you're so pissed off this season is because you loved the summer, didn't you? And I said, yeah, but the summer was not so much about the amount of money spent, or even what the players that we bought, although Wirtz particularly was one I really liked. It was about the ambition that was shown. That to me was what I loved. But the other element of it was not just the ambition, was that we made that spend based on this financial model, which I always wanted. If you go back to the dark days of Gillette and Hicks, there's posts from me on the forum that I always felt you could maximise the commercial side, you could redevelop Anfield, the global fan base was such that you could do it, spend in the way that we wanted to spend in a self-sustaining model, and we've done that. We've proven that. We don't need a sugar daddy at all, but it is contingent on Champions League football, and that would really piss me off if we missed out and then we stumbled in the transfer market for the next season or two because of that. That to me is a risk too far. When it looked like, and by the way, what I'm not saying is I want us to sign players for the short term. Gahey was a player. There might have been an element of pragmatism about it in that he was coming into the last year of his contract, but he's clearly a player that we like. Semenyo, the same. These are players that they're prepared to commit big money to, either in wages, transfer fees, or both. So they're not sort of stopgap signings. So if we're moving away from those now, that to me is very, very risky.
I totally agree. The point I was making is that I think they think they're going to get Champions League no matter what.
Yeah, I think that's a risk.
Well, I think it's a risk because, as we said before, is you get a couple of injuries to the wrong players and the wheels can come off because we haven't got the depth. Yeah. The depth. Well, we have got the depth, but the depth is injured up front. In defence, different story. If you go into the season and Joe Gomez is your number 3, he's not reliable fitness-wise. As much as we'd all love him to be, he isn't. And then, of course, your number 4, Leone, you can't legislate for him doing an ACL. But he was never really going to be playing games anyway. I know he was brilliant the game he did play. And maybe people thought, he probably could have been playing games. Look who the manager is.
Yeah.
He does not put faith in players like that when it matters. They'll get League Cup games, that's it.
Look what it's taken for him to start Chiesa.
I know. An absolute last resort. And Rio, I touched on it before, but I'm pretty sure the only time he's been on the pitch this season has been when we've been chasing something in the last 10 minutes. He does not get on in situations that are favourable to him. Where you're putting him on when you're like... yesterday would have been a good example. If we hadn't give away that goal and then gone on the back foot, that's a game where you would want to put him on and say, go on, lads, you just go and get at them. He doesn't get on the pitch. It's like,
you mentioned Jayden Dans before.
Destroying.
You mentioned Jayden Dans before, and he's now on his way back from injury, finally. I love Jayden Dans. I think I made that clear previously. But I would be absolutely amazed. He's one where I would have thought they would have been lining up a January loan for him, so he can get some game time, come back to full fitness and just get the games that he needs. I would imagine right now they will say he's not going to go out on loan because of the injury issues we've got up front. However, even if we hold him back, I will be amazed if he gets in Premier League squads. Never mind onto the pitch.
I
just
think
don't
he'll get
think
on
he'll
the
be
bench.
trusted.
Look at the state of the bench yesterday.
Do you think?
Yeah, he would have got on the bench yesterday.
He won't get near the pitch.
No,
Not-
but he
not
would.
in the
Well,
league.
same as Rio. I mean, Rio's on the bench every single game, never gets on the pitch. Well, no, Dan's would be on the bench because yesterday you've got Calvin Ramsey is on the bench while Conor Bradley's also on the bench. We had 2 goalkeepers on the bench. So, yeah, Dan's would definitely be in the squad, but I take your point about probably wouldn't be getting any starts. I do think
doubt he'd be getting on the pitch.
he might get on the pitch because we know Hugo can't do the 90 minutes. So, you know, I think he would get some minutes, but probably not as many as he should. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens in January. But if these stories are true about it's going to be a quiet window, you just got to wonder what the hell are they? What are they doing? What are they thinking? Because if you'd have said to us a month ago, January will come and we won't go for Semenyo, we'll like. Maybe if you'd have said he's chosen someone else, then we've been shit. Maybe he thinks, actually, you know what? No, I don't fancy that. I'm going to go somewhere else. That's conceivable. You could see that might be a possibility. But if it's true that we've just pulled out the race for whatever reason, I mean, we've seen rumours about Slot doesn't want him and they can't agree. Richard Hughes wants him, Slot doesn't. We don't know any of that. All stuff like that. Take it all with a pinch of salt.
Yeah, agreed.
But something has obviously gone on where, for whatever reason, they've changed their mind about it. I would not have believed a month ago if you'd have said, and still, time will tell, we might be wrong, but if we don't sign anyone in January, I would never have thought that was a possibility.
Same. It's a concern, and it stems back to this fitness issue. I mean, we've covered the whole squad imbalance thing, but the fitness issue has become pretty stark now. Yeah, I find it so difficult at the moment to come away from games, even feeling philosophical about where we are. Never mind positive. I'm a naturally optimistic fan. I'm looking for things to celebrate, and it's so difficult at the moment. I mean, I think, you know, the situation we're in now, a win's a win. Those great 3 points yesterday, well, much needed. The league table's looking far more respectable. We look like we've definitely bottomed out, and we look like we're starting to become masters of our own fate a little bit now. But it's just so difficult to hold on to. Or to even grasp at a sense of positivity and momentum and build momentum, because you just look at so many things that we're doing that look so self-defeating. Yeah, well, you're right though, Dave. We do need to see what actually happens in the window before we're all slashing our wrists.
Yeah,
the noise is just a concern, and these are not like my boy Indy coming out with stuff that people can poo-poo.
No,
this is Pearce and the likes who are putting out what is clearly the club's line. Now we know the club's got a track record for using those lads to sow disinformation. I don't think those lads know it's disinformation when it's put out, but they are used sometimes to put out messages which suits the club in terms of the negotiating position. But yeah, it's a worry. It's a worry for me.
I mean, you said there about how you're naturally always positive in that, and absolutely. I mean, if people had seen the group chat over the summer, how relentlessly positive you were about it all. So you are like a positive fan. Now some of the listeners will be like, "What?" No, because they've heard you having a go this season and stuff. But even then, you were talking about trying to put a positive spin on. Oh, you know, we bottomed out and it's been better and we're on a run, and that's right. You could actually go the other way if you wanted to, though. If you wanted to be negative, you could easily have said, yeah, okay, so look, the run that we're on, because I'll put the other side across now. So this run that we've been on, well, we dropped 2 points at home to Sunderland. We didn't beat Leeds away, despite leading to was that another 2-0 that we blew? It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's another 2-0. Yeah. That's another one. So there's 4 points dropped in what was, on paper, a piss easy run of games. So the naysayers will say, look at this run that we've been on. We've been playing loads of shit teams. We've still dropped 4 points in that run of games, which is true. And we've got one more easy game coming up. We've got Leeds, which we should win. After that, that's when it gets tricky again, and that's when we'll see if we have actually made progress or not, because we got Fulham away and we've got Arsenal away.
Yeah.
Like Jules said last week, he's not buying into it, and he said like it's a house of cards built on sand, and until we actually impress against better teams, I think that's a fair thing to say.
It's hard to argue with it, isn't it?
The only thing I would say in mitigation to the points that I just made there is I was impressed with Inter Milan away. I thought that was a good performance. It wasn't an amazing performance, but it was what you would want, in a tricky European away fixture like that. Okay, so we get the winner late on with a soft penalty, but we deserved to win that game. We played well. We'd been robbed earlier in the game, had a perfectly good goal disallowed. So I thought that's probably the best performance in this run that we've had, or maybe not best performance. It's the most respectable one where you look at it and go, yeah, that's a result you would take at any point. Even when we're really good and we're in a great run, you would not have frowned upon that in any way. You would, even if like we'd won 10 games in a row, you go and play Inter Milan away, you would take that performance.
Of course you would, yeah.
So that's the one that jumps out in this run, because you can pick holes in a lot of the other stuff. The Tottenham win did not feel like a win. Yesterday, it was a win, but it wasn't one that you can take much from. And some of the other ones in this run as well. But we were at such a low point after like losing to Forest and PSV. It was crisis time. It was really, really bad at that point, and it needed a reset. And we've had the reset, and the results have been okay. We haven't lost, so you take something from that. But does it actually mean anything? We're not going to find that out until the tougher tests come along, which will be soon once we get this Leeds game out the way. I'm not completely taking it for granted that we beat Leeds either, by the way.
No, neither am I.
I'm absolutely not. Leeds are much more of a handful than Wolves. Yeah. So if we can look like that against Wolves, there's no reason why we couldn't look the same way against Leeds. So, yeah, I'm not taking anything for granted, but it is a game that I think we'll win, and we should win. After that, that's when it gets tricky, because Fulham away is a tough game for us even when we're flying.
Yeah. So, Leeds then, you brought us there quite nicely, I think. I mean, team-wise, selection-wise, obviously Dom's back.
Dom for Gazer.
That's pretty much where I'm going as well.
Maybe Connor comes back in.
I suppose for me that depends on Frimpong's fitness.
He played 90, didn't he?
Yeah, I would like Frimpong to stay in.
I thought he would have got subbed.
I'd like him to stay in. I think he's had a good performance yesterday, and I'd like us to build on that, particularly given what we've said about, we're starting to push the fullbacks on, which both of us have been clamouring for, and we thought was coming with the signings that we made in the summer, and Wirtz is starting to become more significant. I just think we've got to double down on that, and it's about having a midfield that's a platform for Wirtz, and you let him pull the strings, conduct the orchestra, and you get the width off the fullbacks, and I think that's the way we've got to go. I don't know. I can't be certain about anything that Slot will do these days. There's a pause there that makes me think he'll be more conservative than that. But there's a good period of time between games. There's plenty of time for rest. It's at Anfield again. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't just go for it and just try and build on yesterday, and then in terms of the results and the positive moments that we've seen in terms of the performance. It wasn't an amazing performance. There were definitely concerns second half, as we said, but try and focus on the things that have gone well and go from there. I don't think you'll get many better opportunities to do that, really, because I agree with what you said about Leeds, but Leeds should not present at Anfield, particularly under the lights. It will be an evening kick-off. That will not present the sort of test that we should be really worrying about. Yeah, that we can't take any team for granted, but we should be thinking that's 3 points.
Yeah, we should, but I still think there's potential that it might go wrong. I don't think it will, and I do think it's if you get the 3 points in that, the table's looking, because Arsenal play Villa this week as well, so one of them's dropping points, maybe both of them's dropping points. I'm not looking at Arsenal, to be fair, we're 10 points back, but Villa, 7 points. If Arsenal were to beat Villa and we win, suddenly that's 4 points, and then you can start thinking about potentially chasing them down for third. Not that it really matters that much whether it's third or fourth, but you want to finish as high as you can, and it gives you something to aim for. So,
and you're at the halfway point of the season then as well. It's 19 games. You can focus more on the points than the journey. You know what I mean? You can think, well, we achieved that. Yeah. That's the position we're in.
And if we do
bottoming out performances, make some signings, get some momentum, and we really consolidate in the second half of the season. That's what you got to hope, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what you've got to be looking at. But I do just think it's about to get tougher after the Leeds game. Yeah. And the worry is, it's not like we've got the cavalry to come back. I don't feel like... I'm looking at the bench and going, where are all our players? How come this is our bench? But then when you think who's missing, it's not like there's that many missing.
And you know the other thing?
Than this. I mean, remember, like in Klopp's last season, we had a spell where we had like 11 or 12 players out, and it was the spell when we actually won the cup. Yeah. But we had so many players missing. Yeah. But I never looked at the bench and was like, oh fucking hell, this is really shit. But I looked at that bench yesterday and I was like, what are we actually going to do here if it's not going well?
I mean, 2 goalkeepers is a massive red flag, isn't it? I mean, the other thing, I don't really want to open this can of worms again. It's not even really a point I particularly want to discuss, but it just occurred to me as you said it. Thinking about the cavalry coming back, I mean, all we've done is kick the Mo issue into touch, really, haven't we? He'll be back in. I mean, I know it's not imminent his return, but even when Mo comes back in a month or so's time, there's still that's going to bring baggage with it. That's not something that we can think straight away. Oh well, Mo's back, sound, straight in the team, and away we go. I mean, he might come back and go straight in the team, and
that presents a problem though.
There are issues linked to it.
I almost brought this up earlier when you said about everything's got to go through Wirtz, and it's starting to look that way. I don't think you can do that when Mo's in the team.
Well, not if you're playing him wide on the right.
No, that's what I was going to get to.
You've got to bring him. You've got to pull him inside.
He's got to be
nearer to goal.
Yeah, you've definitely got to do that, because when he's playing out wide, that's where we look all the time.
Yeah.
That out ball playing out to Mo, and then he starts cutting inside. It's not going through Wirtz. If you want everything to go through Wirtz, you've got a problem with Mo. But I do think you can maybe solve that problem by moving him, but you can't solve it by just having him do what he's been doing all this time. That's not an option anymore. You need to come up with another solution. And if he plays rotates with Ekitike, that could work for both of them, because it means Ekitike's not having to play all of the time. So maybe that's how you've got to do it. But I do not want to see Mo coming back in and getting put on the right wing again and us just trying to do what we were doing before. I think we've moved past that, and what we've been trying to do now is how we've got to play moving forward.
Yeah.
Wirtz is the future, so you've got to put all your eggs in that basket.
Yeah.
Now, it's not going to happen for another month anyway. I think Egypt are probably... I think they've won all the games, haven't they? But
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, Egypt are just like... Slot probably loves watching them, because they're just like, they're so fucking dull, aren't they? It's his type of football. Yeah. But no, going back to the Leeds game, I think obviously Dom comes back in for Chiesa, and I think it's a toss-up at right back, because I think we need to just rotate them, because neither of them are particularly reliable fitness-wise. So if you can rotate them both, it reduces the risk of one of them getting injured. Yeah. So maybe Bradley starts on Thursday. Maybe Frimpong plays an hour and then Bradley comes on. Who knows? But I do think we need to see quite a bit of rotation between those two.
Joe, just one other thought on I agree with it. I mean, my view on the team is exactly what you just said, but it just occurred to me then. We didn't mention it before. He left Kerkez onto the end yesterday, and Kerkez, I couldn't work out whether he'd taken a knock or whether he was just absolutely done in.
I think it was both.
Or a bit of both, because I was very surprised that Robbo didn't come on for Kerkez yesterday. And I just wonder...
so much into that game.
Yeah. And he's very likeable, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think the jury's still very much out on him as a player, but he's there's a real honesty to him, and he's very wholehearted. I love the way he plays. I think there's lots of question marks about how raw he is, about the way he dives in. I also think he's had a tough, as we've said, it's been tough for him in that he's had Son or Slot not passing to him, and he's also been, for the first quarter of the season at least, we weren't playing to his strengths.
Yeah.
But he's a very likeable lad. But I do wonder whether there's going to be any residue from yesterday in terms of the selection on Thursday, because he didn't look great on the final whistle as he was coming off.
It didn't help that he got fucking booted in the chest twice when he was lying on the floor. That Andre just
did he?
Yeah. Did you not see?
So that's why I saw him. So that's the knock. I saw him reacting, but I didn't see.
He spent like 50 yards stumbling down the line because he'd been like tackled and he was stumbling, but he kept running and running, and at no point was he at full balance. And then he gets down by the cop and he falls over on top of the ball, and the ball's rolling out for a goal kick, and he sort of jumped up and controlled it with his chest while he was lying on the floor. And that Andre just came running in and was like, I'm not having that, and he just fucking was booting the ball while it was in his chest.
So I saw all of that apart from the Andre bit at the end. I don't know where my attention was.
That's why we got the free kick.
Right, okay.
I was amazed he didn't get a yellow card for it, because he knew exactly what he was doing. He didn't kick Kerkez, he kicked the ball, but the ball was attached to Kerkez and he fucking leathered it twice while he was lying there. So I think that knocked the wind out of him.
Okay.
But he put such a shift in. I was surprised Robbo didn't come on. But Kerkez has got to be like probably the only person in the world who was happier than I was when Gakpo got injured. And he said something last week, and people will take it as, that's a shot at Gakpo. I don't think Kerkez
doesn't think that way, does he?
He's not on that level where he would be so subtle. I think he was just saying, I really like playing with Wirtz. I don't think it was saying, that cunt over there never passes to me. I'm finally getting a pass now. I don't think that was his intent, because I don't think he's on that like sneaky level. I don't think he's got that to him. I think you're giving him far too much credit if you think that's what he was doing. I think he was just saying, I'm really enjoying playing with Flo. And why wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Because he's actually making runs now and the ball comes.
Yeah.
It still doesn't come as often as I'd like it to. There's still times when he's made a run, I'm like, we'll give him the ball.
Yeah.
But Wirtz is passing him the ball, and Gakpo never was. So if Gakpo comes back into the team, play Robbo, because he might actually pass to Robbo, but he's not going to pass it to Kerkez. So I don't want to see that combination again.
Agreed.
Definitely don't. I tell you what we haven't mentioned, and it definitely needs mentioning after yesterday and the last month. Curtis, I thought he was brilliant yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
He's been our best player for the past month.
He just exudes confidence, doesn't he? Caveat about the point you made about the throw-in that Cara highlighted the other day. But I just think he's so confident. I mean, you and I have always loved him, haven't we?
Yeah.
I mean, you put me onto him when he was playing in the under-18s, and I started watching the under-18s regularly because of Curtis at that stage. And we've both been fans of his since then. I feel like his natural flair has been curtailed by trying to be the team man that he felt he had to be to establish himself in the squad. And now he's almost developing into a different kind of player. But he is so good on the ball, so confident on the ball, so reliable on it, uses it so well. There are still a couple of people who grumble about him. I just don't get it. I just don't get what are you seeing in him that you're not thinking fantastic? He's absolutely brilliant, and I thought he was great yesterday. You can just trust him implicitly with the ball, can't you?
Yeah. I think this
anywhere on the
really
pitch
suiting him as well, where he's in the two with
tucking in, yeah, absolutely.
It's definitely playing to both of their strengths, and I think it's making life easier for both of them because they're both good on the ball. So you can give them it, and they can get away from people. They're hard to press.
Yeah.
But I think Curtis has gone from, so at the start of the season, there was an established 3, and he was number 4, and then he kind of was 5 because we were playing Wirtz as a 10. So Curtis had moved down a pecking order, and I was worried for him. I was thinking, I'm not sure how he gets back, and if we hadn't changed the system, I'm not sure he would have forced his way in. But I think the system change, and then he's absolutely seized his chance. I think now the only midfielder who I'm picking ahead of him is Dom.
I agree with that.
As of now, that's not a knock on Gravenberch. I think he's having a pretty good run himself, and he's added goals this season as well. But I'm still, at the moment, in terms of if I'm picking my midfield, Curtis is like the second name I'm putting down.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah,
and then obviously Gravenberch would be like the third name. I don't think Mac has been given. It's not helpful that he's playing in this position because I just don't feel like he can get on the ball enough. And a long term, this is definitely not where he's going to be playing. I think that the spot that he's in, eventually, I think Wirtz will go there. But if we don't sign anyone in January, I mean, the obvious thing was if we'd signed Semenyo, which may still happen, but you think, well, he'll probably go left, and that frees up Wirtz to then play in Macca's position where he is now. If we don't sign him, then Wirtz kind of has to stay where he is.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting to see how all of that plays out.
Yeah. Anything else? I'll tell you. So I got John again. the Bueno thing. Every year when we play Wolves, the same thing. I just go, he's good in, John. And he goes, who's that? And I go, Bueno. And I did it yesterday and he still didn't get it. I'm like, I do this every season, John. How are you not getting onto it? And then when I realised like that there was 2 Buenos in the team. So then I said, they've got a couple of good players, these, John. He went, who's that? I'm like, yeah, Bueno and Bueno. And the goal, he went, it was a bit of a shit goal. I was like, no, that was a good goal. I was like, it was Bueno. But I'm milking that for all it's worth now because he doesn't fall for the Anana stuff anymore. Like, I try it, but he's wise to it now. But yeah, the Bueno stuff's still working. So I reckon the seat next to me at Anfield should be the most expensive seat in the stadium because you're not only getting to watch the match, you're also getting like a stand-up show next to you as well during games.
Poor old John, your loyalist mate, who's your fall guy every time.
God bless John for still falling for that. Anything else then from yesterday?
No, let's end on a laugh. That's a good place to finish.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll be back on probably Friday morning actually. It's latish kickoff, so I don't think I'm going to do it when I get in. I think we'll do it Friday morning. Yeah. So all that's left to say is Happy New Year to all the listeners.
Absolutely.
This is our last one of the year, isn't it? So it's the second when we'll be back. So yeah, thanks for listening this year, and we'll see you in the new year.